yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
Well, where do I begin? I've been meaning to do something like this for quite a while now. It's not an easy situation. You know, I was raised as a Jehovah Witness, and I was always taught that this is the truth, the absolute truth. Now, when we talk about truth, we talk about things we know and things we can verify. And if it is true, it can handle scrutiny of any kind. So this video that I'm making is specifically to my JW family. This is for you, mother-in-law and father-in-law. I'm not going to name your names in the video. It's also for my brother, also for my sister-in-law, both of them, my brother-in-law. Now, I'm sure by now you think of me as an apostate. But let's start off by defining the word apostate, okay? Put simply, from dictionary.com, it is a person who has left a political or religious organization. I feel it's important to define that. And the reason why I say that is because if we don't define the words that we're talking about, we're not going to have a clear context of the subject at hand. So now I've defined that, let me really start out by saying here, I'm not doing this out of anger, out of hate. I'm doing this out of love. And what I really wanted to be able to tell you guys. Now, I have a couple of times tried to put this down in the form of a letter. But since I've left, as you know, mother-in-law, as you've told my wife, you've seen my YouTube channel, and you know I do videos now, and I figured it would be better for you to hear it straight from me to you. And it really is my sincere hope that you'll hear me out and just give this video a chance, because what I'm about to tell you changed my life. I learned new information. And I'm going to tell you what it is. That's the whole point of this, is the reason I'm making this video is to tell you why I left. What was it that made me leave? Because if I go back to when I was a teenager, I was very zealous. I was always out in the ministry. I was at every meeting. I was going to double meetings at one point, going to Spanish and English. And boy, I just thought I had everything, you know. I wanted to do everything I could for Jehovah. But things started changing. I started having doubts. And the problem I started realizing right away when I started having these doubts, I knew that if I started going and questioning everything, that I would be outcast anyway. So I kept quiet. So I want to start off with this question though, okay? If it is the truth, why can't people ask questions? Why is it when somebody goes and asks questions about any of the doctrines, the beliefs, the things in past Watchtower magazines, things in present Watchtower magazines, that usually leads to 3 elders in a back room asking you if you're an apostate. And we all know what that means in the context of the Jehovah Witness religion. An apostate might as well be Satan the devil himself almost, because we question, we want to know. But that's why I asked, if it's truth, why can't we question it? Why do we have to believe it without questioning? It was in a, I believe it was a 2013 Watchtower article. It said that we must obey the governing body even if we don't understand why they're doing it. I'm kind of paraphrasing it because I don't have it right in front of me. I'll put it up on the screen for you. So then there's another thing that happens. So you start having these questions, these doubts, and what happens? Well, there's that one famous scripture, can't remember where it's at. I'll look it up and I'll put it on the screen. But it says, basically says, you know, where else will we go, Lord? You have sayings of everlasting life, when the apostles were talking to Jesus. But see, there's a problem with that, because it is a thought-stopping technique. What it's telling you is to be quiet, stop asking questions, and just believe it. And that you can't get answers anywhere else. Now, is that true? Can you not get answers anywhere else? Well, I won't tell you one way or the other. I'm not making this video to try to convince you guys one way or the other. That is not my intention. All I wanted to do is have a chance to be heard and for you to understand my position and why I left. Now, I understand also that this may lead to other consequences, like you won't ever talk to us anymore. How much are you talking to me now? So, I do love you guys. all of my family I do. I miss you. I just can't be part of something that punishes family relationships for beliefs. I just can't. So let me start off with, as you can see, I prepared stuff to say. Now that I'm starting the making of this video, I don't think it's good to start there. So let me start off where it all began, really. This is not something that I did on a whim. It's not something because of, oh, I wanted to go and commit these sins, or I was doing something. That's not it at all. This is a journey of about 10 years. Because I remember when I had my very first doubt, it was in 2008. I was working at the first shipyard after welding school. And I remember a coworker came up to me and asked, "Hey, are you celebrating Christmas this year?" I said, "Well, no, I'm a Jehovah Witness." And he goes, "Well, why not? It's for the kids." In that moment, my brain kind of stopped thinking, and I kind of focused in on that. I'm like, in my head, I was like, wait a minute, why can't we do Christmas? I mean, I knew the reason why we got from the organization, but after all these years of, Christmas having different traditions and everything, it doesn't even really mean anything any more than having families get together, having some gifts, having some laughs, and things like that. Well, that's what I thought about with my kids was, how happy they would be to open up some presents. But like a good witness at the time, I pushed it back. I didn't think about it. I was like, you know what? No, this is right. I'm going to continue on with it. So that was kind of it from there. Now we'll go forward a couple more years now. We were in our house in Spring Hill, new congregation, and this is in about 2010. And if you recall, that was the year my parents left the organization. And, of course, I wanted to know why. Well, I can't always remember all the conversations we had back then. I would have had to write them down, and I didn't, because that's just not how I am. But I remember one of the biggest things that stuck out was the date of 1914 being wrong. Despite what scholars say, historians say, Watchtower organization has firmly stuck to the fall of Jerusalem in 607 BCE. Every other historian, scholar, they say it was about 586, 587 BCE. So, for me, that made me think, well, if there's something wrong that I've missed, or something I wasn't putting enough faith in, was I missing something? Was I missing something with Jehovah? Was I missing something from the organization that was, you know, quote unquote, his spirit-directed organization? Which they no longer claim to be either, but that's another topic. So, at that point, you know, I was really having some doubts. I was ready to start really, I was openingly questioning, but I was being careful how I did it at the same time. Like I mentioned, if I had just gone guns blazing, father-in-law, I'm saying it that way out of respect, so because I'm not using your name. You're an elder. What would the elders do with somebody who is openly questioning the doctrines and teachings, especially somebody who was born in and baptized? I'm sure you know the answer to that, as well I do, because my father was an elder as well. So I was careful, and I remember asking the brothers in the hall for study at the time. Well, they came one time, just once, and we talked about this subject of 1914. And what did they do? They brought literature from the organization to support what the organization says. You're probably thinking, well, what's the problem? Problem is they didn't bring in any information from outside sources, from scholars, historians, people who have dedicated their lives to studying these things. They didn't bring me anything from that to show me where Jerusalem fell in 607. Why can't something that simple be proven if it's a historical fact? And also, the Babylonians at that time were known for keeping very good records. So it's not like it's confused history. We know that it didn't happen then. And I'm not sitting here trying to disprove it to you. Please, anything I say about stuff like that, I'm highly encouraging you to research. Research what I'm saying. You don't have to trust me. It's fine. You don't. Look it up for yourself. Find it for yourself. That's what I did. So anyways, these things I pushed back in my head, because I still was thinking, okay, it is Jehovah's organization. You know, things should get clearer in the future that I might not understand. And basically, I put it in Jehovah's hands at that time. Well, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. So now let's move on a little bit. Of course, you know, I was back still in Spring Hill now, struggling to pay my bills, struggling to make a living. I was getting laid off a lot. I almost lost my house several times, and it was a beautiful home. And that's when I found out about the job here in Virginia at the shipyard. Well, this job offered stability. It offered a paycheck, something I could support my family on. And still, even at that time, make the meetings, go out in service. There was no interference with that. And I did my research before I came up here. I knew what their stance was as far as working for a military or anything. And this yard had, the research I had found, had done commercial work. I didn't realize when I got here that they had stopped doing commercial work, but I thought they were still doing it. And I figured, okay, I'll move up here and I'll do my best to make sure I'm in the commercial side of everything. No conflicts. And we know that didn't happen because they don't do commercial work. They haven't done it since the 90s. And even at this point, I still was having contact with my parents. But to be honest, if you remember, we moved up here in 2013. I was about to leave being a witness when we first moved up here. I was close. Well, I didn't. I was still in touch with my parents, and then, who, by that time, you know, the organization would have considered apostate, and I'll refer you back to the definition from dictionary.com. And I had a lot of conversations with my parents. They weren't always religious or anything, but sometimes they were. But what would happen is they would bring up things, and it would cause something to happen called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is what happens when you get new facts that contradict your beliefs. Okay? So what happens is, in your brain, you go into a safety mode pretty much, and your brain wants to go back to what it knows and what it's been taught, especially when you've been raised in something. It's even harder. Even if what you find is 100% true and it contradicts what you believe, you're gonna still go with your beliefs rather than the facts presented to you. So I guess at this point, for me, it was really about what I was comfortable with, what was safe. And so I was, at this point, I was starting to make the decision to do better as a witness. And then in 2014, my brother, who had been away for a while, he started coming back. And to my brother, no, I won't say your name either. You remember how this went down. We started getting in contact with each other again. You were going through therapy. And we decided at that point to start writing letters to Mom and Dad. Well, we did, and I remember we did a draft or two. We sent them to each other, and you know, we tweaked it out, and then we sent a final letter to them. And at that point, I felt like you and I, brother, started to get closer with each other. We were talking more. I won't go into any issues or nothing because that's not what this is about. We still had issues, but things were getting better. I felt like we were getting closer at that time. We were making a stand to our parents together. But something that kept bugging me. If this is the right way to do things, why does it feel so bad? Why does shunning feel so bad if it's the right thing to do? It's like if you have a healthy diet and exercise and you're a person who's in good health, you're not going to feel bad by eating healthy and doing exercise. You're only going to feel better because that's the right thing to do for your body. But when you are shunning somebody, tell me, does it feel good? I know it never felt good to me. I thought about it every day. I didn't like it. But anyways, so I remember when I was in Franklin Hall, when we were living up here, a couple elders pulled me in the back room one day, and they told me that if I don't quit my job, find something else, Jehovah was going to kill me at Armageddon. I thought, well, wait a minute. Can't God be selective in who he destroys? So at that point, this is me trying to be good and everything. I went and I did some research, and this came from the July 15th, 1955 Watchtower, pages 433 to 439, and I'm only going to quote a sentence from here where it says, Jehovah's war will be selective, killing only the wicked, none of the lovers of righteousness that seek him. So I went back to the elders and I showed them that a week later, because I was thinking, well, surely if I'm working towards being better, trying to do what's right, if I'm in the wrong place at the time, but my heart's in the right place and Jehovah knows that, surely there should be nothing to worry about. And so I brought this to them and showed them, because that's who I am. And they didn't say anything to me. Why didn't they say anything? Because it's in their own literature. They never mentioned it again. But still, I was getting pressure. I was always being pressured. And that was from you, mother-in-law and father-in-law, that was always pressuring us, calling us. Did you go to the meeting? Did you go out in service? Did you do your study? And then finally came a point where you guys were going to retire, and you asked that we move closer to you. And obviously, as you know, we did. Why did I do that? Well, I did it because I cared for you guys. I wanted to be there as you got older to help you take care of things, and to be there for you guys like you've been there for us. Well, this also was supposed to be for me and my family to put Jehovah first. So I would be getting away from the shipyard and, getting back on track. What happened as soon as I got to Tennessee? What happened as soon as I got there? Well, as you know, I immediately started having problems with work again. I was back in the same situation as I was in Florida. I had to leave my family and go on the road for the first month. Then that didn't work out well, and so I came back with no job. I had to go find a worse paying job, and then I landed at a place that was marginally better. But this job had no benefits. I had vacation, but the health insurance was expensive. It was a very small place. Although it was a good place to work, it still wasn't where I was at in Virginia when I left. And I'm saying this to you because life is tough when you don't have a good paying job. And to you, father-in-law, you had a good job. I understand it wasn't always the best paying and you had to work your way up. I get that. But your job had benefits, it had stability, you never got laid off from it. I went through a lot trying to support my family. I know you guys helped a lot, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because I know without you guys, we wouldn't have made it. But it takes a toll on you. It makes you feel like a failure. When you're struggling, and you gotta work extra hard just to keep up with it all. And that's why I liked it in Virginia at the shipyard so much. Because for the first time in my life, I had that. I was never encouraged to go to college or try to find a career that would help me support myself. I was always told to make pioneering my goal and move up in the organization. And that doesn't feed my family. And as much as I tried to put my faith and trust in Jehovah, things never were working out right. When I'm going to go back a little bit here, not trying to sidetrack from this too much, but one time when I was in Florida, I had lost my job. I went and applied at a place where somebody else in our congregation was working at, and I put his name on the application, just as I knew him. I wasn't even asking him to be a reference. Well, they interviewed me because of that, and the next time I came to the meeting, he chewed me out for even doing that. Where's the love? I would have gladly helped somebody out, even if I didn't know him very well. Give somebody a chance. Not this person. So, back in Tennessee now, I didn't have that again. I lost that because I was back in Tennessee. Like I said, it was a decent job, but it still was a far cry from what I had at the shipyard. But I will say that this job did let me listen to whatever I wanted on my phone while I worked. I could watch Netflix, I could watch Hulu, I could watch YouTube, anything I wanted. Well, as you know, at this point, we're having a lot of trouble with the Durango. And I was on YouTube a lot. I was on YouTube to look up car videos, to learn how to fix my car better, because I couldn't afford to pay anybody. Well, this is really the heart of the story right here. Now, what I'll do is I'll put some timestamps in the description. So if you want to just jump to the heart of the story, here's where it's going to be right here. This point on is where I've learned a whole lot of new things that I didn't know, and why I finally left the religion. So getting back to it, when I was looking up all these car videos for the Durango, trying to learn, like what's wrong with my transmission, what's wrong with my engine, we had a whole bunch of things going on with it. Well, this is 100% honest right here. I was scrolling through my feed on YouTube. I had, at this point in my life, never looked up anything Jehovah Witness related or ex-Jehovah Witness related on YouTube. Never. I started getting videos pop up into my suggested feed that were ex-Jehovah Witness videos. At first, I did what everybody does. Scroll on through, don't worry about it. I don't remember what it was. I know something caught my eye one day. I clicked on it and I started watching it. I turned it off. It's like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing this. The problem was, even in those couple minutes, it made sense. This is why the Watchtower organization is afraid of apostates. Not because what they're saying is a lie. What they say is making sense. But, like I said, I turned it off. And then, because it made sense, I'm like, let me check this out again. Well, I started watching videos. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not believe what they were saying. It's not like, oh, well, this is just a video and let me just believe everything I watch on the internet. I'm not stupid. They would quote things from Watchtower literature. They would quote things from the Bible. And they made some good points about things. And then what did I do with that? I didn't just trust, okay, well, that comes from that Watchtower article or whatever book they said. I looked it up. I verified it. That was the right course of action to do. If you're not trusting the source, go verify it. So I did. The sources were accurate. Everything I looked up, scriptures were quoted accurately, the articles were quoted accurately. Everything was lining up with what they were saying. Well, then this happened. I don't remember what the first video was I heard about this, but in 2015, something happened. Something happened that was big. Very big. This part right here is what changed it all for me. In 2015, Australia did what's called a Royal Commission. They did an inquiry into institutions about child sexual abuse. There was 57 different organizations that were invited to this inquiry. Each of them was examined and cross-examined in basically what was a courtroom setting, minus the charges being filed or somebody going to jail at the end. That wasn't the point. The point was for them to see how these institutions handled it and how they could make it better. Jehovah's Witnesses were case study number 29 out of 57. The final report came out a little while later, obviously, because they weren't the last one on the docket there. They found Jehovah's Witnesses, just in Australia alone, to be the worst institution on how they handle child sexual abuse. It was not just a couple days. This was 8 days of testimonies that were given. It started with a couple of victims of sexual abuse, then went to the elders from their hall, went to the branch, the service department, and then here's where a lot of people want to call fake news, false, this and that. It's on the government's website. Then got Jeffrey Jackson up on the stand. Governing body member Jeffrey Jackson. Before I finish what I'm about to say about Jeffrey Jackson, let me tell you why this is so impactful to me. And it should be for you as well, mother-in-law and father-in-law. After all, this was your daughter. Your daughter, who was a victim of child sexual abuse, abused by an elder who was your friend, father-in-law. Why did her abuser get away with what he did? I'll tell you why. Jehovah's Witness organization demands a 2-witness rule. How many times does a child sexual abuse offender call for a witness when he abuses somebody? So he got away with it for years and years. Yes, I know he eventually went to jail and etc. I know what you're thinking. But we changed our policies. Well, they weren't changed enough. And if you really examine them, they're not sufficient. Here's why. Back in 2017, in November, on JW Broadcasting, governing body member not sure if he's a helper or if he's a member. I think he's a helper. Gary Bro said we will never change the two witness rule.
Now, what is another circumstance that might quickly shaken our faith if we're not on guard? Well, it has to do with the apostates. Now, there's something that the apostates are talking about and trying to put forward. The media has picked it up. Others have also picked it up. And that is our scriptural position of having two witnesses a requirement for judicial action if there's no confession. Now, if you open your Bibles to Deuteronomy 19:15, our good reasoning is pretty solid on this. In Deuteronomy 19:15, the scripture is very, very clear. It says, "No single witness may convict another for any error or any sin that he may commit. On the testimony of two witnesses or on the testimony of three witnesses, the matter should be established." It's very clear, isn't it? You cannot establish a judicial committee based on one witness. But now listen, here's what they say. Well, now look, the Old Testament also says that adulteresses should be stoned. Now, since you're not doing that, why do you stick to this two-witness rule? And see, if you're not careful, that can do some tricks on your mind because you have to think it through. Well, how might we do that? Well, we'll go to Matthew chapter 18 and verse 16 because obviously Christ Jesus established the Christian arrangement. And notice what he said, Matthew 18 and verse 16. He says, "But if he does not listen, take along with you one or two more, so that on the testimony of two or three witnesses, every matter may be established." So Christ Jesus establishes the fact that there has to be two witnesses. Now, it doesn't mean that if there's only one witness, that there's no consequences. There might be, depending upon the situation. But the scriptures are very clear. Before a judicial committee can be convened, there has to be a confession or two witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position on that subject.
So why is that important to how it happened with my wife's abuser? Because, again, they're not gonna find a second witness. When we first got married, we were living in our apartment. This was in our first 5 months of marriage. I'm 21, she's 18. We were called down to the Clearwater Hall for her to be a second witness and somebody else accusing her abuser in that hall. You want to know what he did? He sat there and blamed your daughter, my wife, for what he did to her, that he got away with for years. And you want to know something else? Again, I'm not mentioning people's names out of respect for their privacy, but I'm sure you'll know who I'm talking about by this description. Even you will, my brother. Remember the brother who was the chiropractor with the beard? Yeah. He told me that this guy who abused your daughter lived with him up in Pennsylvania years and years ago. And that this guy's daughters, his two daughters, came to his house crying about what their dad had done to them. At the time, we're talking probably, I'm thinking either the 60s or 70s at the time when this happened. And of course, you know, this chiropractor was very young at the time and didn't fully understand the implications of what that meant, especially because abuses like this hadn't been made known. And he sent him home because he didn't realize the magnitude of the situation. So the problem here is, if somebody in the hall, a child, comes up to an elder, they say, hey, so-and-so abused me, which is very rare for a child to even do, but if they did, and then that elder goes to that person and asks them, hey, so-and-so made an accusation, did you do it? They say no, what more can the elders do? They're not police, they're not investigators, their hands are pretty well tied. And I agree with that. They're not police, they're not investigators. So why aren't they taking these cases to the police? Let the police investigate it and let them sort it out. Now, we can go back to the May 2019 Watchtower article of last year, which was titled Love and Justice in the Face of Wickedness. And in paragraph 13, and I'm going to read it here word for word, what it says in there. You, please, if you don't believe me, please look it up. Paragraph 13 asks the question, do elders comply with secular laws about reporting an allegation of child sexual abuse to secular authorities? Let me read that again. Do elders comply with secular laws about reporting an allegation of child abuse to secular authorities? So do the elders comply with these laws? And this is very loaded language in their answer. It says, yes, it should stop right there, but it doesn't. In places where such laws exist, elders endeavor to comply with secular laws about reporting allegations of abuse. Really? Why don't elders just follow the law? Why do they have to endeavor to follow the law? If it's the right thing to do, why do you have to endeavor to do the right thing? It's as simple as doing the right thing. I don't get it. Why do you have to endeavor? This is the part that's really got me. The article calls child sexual abuse a sin, which I won't disagree with on that. You're absolutely right, it's a sin. But first and foremost, it's a crime. It's a crime against humanity. It's a crime against children. You know, I know children aren't the only ones who are sexually abused, but in this case, it's a crime against children. And I understand if the elders called the police, let the police handle the crime aspect of it, and then the elders handle the sin aspect of it. Perfectly fine. But they don't. The elders, first and foremost, call the service department at headquarters. The service department then generates the report and gets their lawyers involved and then gives the elders direction on what to do. And then they get back to the elders, tell them what to do. And nowhere in that article, read that article again, the May 2019 Love and Justice in the Face of Wickedness article, I could sum up that entire lesson and solve it in a sentence. One sentence. If you get an allegation of child sexual abuse, call the police. That's it. Call the police. I don't know why that's so hard. You see how passionate I am about this. Why? Because my wife had to go through this as a child. she didn't get the help she needed. She didn't get therapy for it. She suffers from depression. She suffers from lack of self-confidence in herself. I'm not saying you guys didn't love her. I'm not saying that at all. I know, and I believe that you guys did the best you could with the tools and resources and knowledge you had. I believe that. I am not accusing you guys in any way of mishandling it. What I am saying is that even though her case, or a whole bunch of other cases which we've seen have been mishandled, moving forward, it should be better. So anyways, let me go back and finish up about the Royal Commission, Australian Royal Commission, case study 29. Jeffrey Jackson was up on the stand. And I'm going to show you exactly what he said, word for word. I'm going to paraphrase it here for you, but then I'm going to show you exactly what was said. And in this part of the story right here, I had my doubts. I knew 1914 wasn't right. Even at this point, I really I still felt terrible about the shunning. Well, I know I stopped doing that. And so I'm listening to Brother Jackson on the testimony here. And he gets, and remember, this is just like a court of law. They have to swear in. You know, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Or whatever variation Australia has of it down there. Because they have a very similar format. He was asked quite a few questions, because he was on the stand for just over an hour. And one of the things he was asked was if an elder went to somebody's house and they saw them celebrating Christmas, if they would be disfellowshipped. He said no. Excuse me? Your governing body member of what you claim many times in your literature to be the one true religion in the world, he lied about that. Out.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using. The scriptures clearly show that someone can act in harmony with God's Spirit in giving comfort and help in the congregations.
He outright lied. And I will tell you something, you father-in-law, brother and mother-in-law and brother-in-law and sisters-in-law. I've read the Elder's Manual. In the Elder's Manual that they don't let you see, and at this point, father-in-law, you're probably going to cut it off. So if you're watching this whole thing, but in the Elder's Manual, it says under the topic of apostasy that false religious holidays are listed, and if you're participating in them, you're going to be disfellowshipped, pretty much. And I know this. You know this. you're going to be hauled into a judicial committee and more than likely be disfellowshipped, disassociated, at the very least, if you're not disfellowshipped, be reproved for it. But Jeffrey Jackson said nothing would happen. Straight from your governing body member's mouth. Then here was the final kick in the gut. He was asked if Jehovah's Witnesses were the one true religion. How many times have you made that statement? How many times is it in the literature? Brother Jackson said, it would be presumptuous for me to say if we were. That was it for me. If the leaders of the organization that I grew up in, that I thought was the truth, couldn't get up and defend the truth, couldn't give me a reason to defend it, why should I? Why should I follow them? And you can say, oh, well, we don't follow them, we follow Jehovah and Jesus. Consider this, please. The governing body are asserting more and more power to themselves in the organization, especially by means of that watchtower from 2013, where they say you must obey them whether it seems wise from a human standpoint or not. Then later on in, I think it was 2017, I'll put it up here, they write in a Watchtower article that the governing body are neither inspired nor infallible. So if they're not inspired, how can anything they say make the claim that it's coming from Jehovah God and Jesus Christ if they're not inspired? And this is what really, really hurt. There was no going to the elders, talking to them about this. I guarantee you the elders, most of them don't even know about this. And I'm talking about the Australian Royal Commission. And for you father-in-law and mother-in-law, remember that day my wife and I came over to your house? It was early in August of 2018. We had come to your meeting that day, and we came over to your house for lunch afterwards. Well, that was the day that I told Crystal that I didn't want to be in this organization anymore. She didn't want to be either. She didn't want to be for a long time. She stayed in because of me. I remember you, father-in-law, you asked me, you pulled me aside that day, and we went outside, and you're like, Crystal seems really upset. Is everything okay? I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, just kind of life stuff. And I try to blow it off. And then later you texted her asking her, hey, I talked to James, but something still doesn't seem right. You were absolutely right. Because I had, at that point, already been starting to plan my final exit. So, let me ask you something, and this is another thing, okay? And I mean this with all sincerity. I am not angry, I'm not mad at you guys. I'm not saying any of this is your fault. But ask yourself some hard questions here, okay? Why does an organization that claims to have love, you had a whole convention series about it in 2019 about love, why do you show, or not you personally, I'm not saying you do, but why does that organization show such disdain for those who question? Why does it get on you about looking at researching outside of their organization, outside of their website, outside of their materials? If you have the truth, shouldn't everything you look up and find support that truth you have? If not, do you really have the truth? 100%? You say, oh, well, we'll leave it in Jehovah's hands. And I get that. We don't always have the answers for everything. I'm not saying I do either. I'm not saying I do. But what's wrong with going and looking for answers and trying to find them? Why you shunning and disfellowshipping and forced disassociations to silence those who have left? What is the organization scared of? That's a question for another day, because I know exactly what they're scared of. But think about that. What is that? That is what you call emotional blackmail. Using a person's emotions against them to keep them inside the organization. It's manipulative, and it's quite frankly disgusting. I know I did it. I'm not proud of it. Not at all. And back in 2016 at the convention, there was a video about a girl who, in the video, she got disfellowship because she went and had sex with a boy and ended up having kids, and she was disfellowshipped for 15 years according to the timeline of the video. In that video, the daughter was at a really low point in her life and just needed to talk to her mom. Her mom saw her phone and didn't answer it. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's right. Well, they shouldn't have answered it. They did the right thing. Well, consider this. I know it was a video, and it was a fictitious scenario. So because it's a fictitious scenario, I can add a fictitious alternate scenario. What if that girl was being raped and her mother's number was the first one that could come up, or was in some other kind of life-threatening trouble and her mother didn't answer it? could have saved her life. But because of the policies of shunning and not having any contact with people who have left, daughter ends up dying. How do you think that mother would have felt? How would you feel if you were in a similar situation? Now, at the end of the video, it showed the girl getting reinstated. What was her reason for coming back? But the reason she came back was given in the video was that she missed her family. Didn't say her motivation for coming back was because she loved Jehovah and it was all true and I had to get, that the reason she came back was because she missed her family. That is the epitome of emotional blackmail. So, again, I'm making this video for you guys. It's not because I hate you. Really love you guys. Miss you. Really do. But I felt that it was time that you had a chance to at least hear what I had to say. Now, if you don't talk to me because of this, you're not talking to me anyways. All I want to do is let you know why. You have the right to know why. You should know why. That is why. Now, I won't say that's the complete story. There's more things. But that was the story of my journey and what led me to that ultimate decision. And again, none of it was done without me having researched it and looked it up and verified everything that I found. All of it, every last bit of it, I can verify. If you want to, I'm leaving the door wide open. The ball is in your court. Message me. Call me. If you got any further questions, ask me. I'm more than willing to answer the questions. I will not let it turn into an argument or a debate or you trying to guilt me into coming back or whatever other decisions. My purpose here, again, was to inform you about my decision. I'm not trying to tell you to leave. I want to be clear on that. I'm not trying to tell you that you have to leave or anything like that. I just wanted to let you know why I did. I wanted to get this off my chest. I've been thinking about it for a couple years now, since I left. And again, if you don't want to talk to me, or I'm sorry. I mean, you're gonna make your decision based on what you feel is best, and I understand that. As It's what I'm doing. But I do leave the door open. I leave it for you to freely come and ask me. I love you guys. I miss you. And I sincerely do want the best for you and for my family as well. And at this point in my life, what I've been doing, I feel has been the best thing we could have done. So, if you did watch this all the way through, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I love you.